You're listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review AEW Collision from July 8th, 2023. 18 years in the making. Samoa Joe and CM Punk square off for the fourth time, and CM Punk, for the first time in his career, beats Samoa Joe and advances to the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournaments. But it looks like this rivalry is just getting started. Overall thoughts on Collision. I thought this was a great show. Phenomenal show, man. Of course, this was built around, once again, the Owen Hart Cup Foundation tournament. We had two semifinal matches in the tournament, and honestly, both of those matches were pretty good. Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, relatively short match, but the right person won in Ricky Starks. Powerhouse Hobbs, of course, it looks like he's going to be out from QTV, and it looks like he's going to be going on his own. We also had CM Punk versus Samoa Joe 4, which was a phenomenal main event. We also had an AEW World Tag Team Title Eliminator match as FTR takes on Bullet Club Gold's Switchblade Jay White and Juice Robinson, which was a phenomenal match, and we saw Jay White and Juice Robinson get the win, and they are granted a title shot, and they are going to be wrestling FTR next week, not only in a normal match, they are going to be wrestling FTR in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. So we got a lot of things to talk about right here on the Collision review. But before I get into all this craziness regarding AEW Collision, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. If you guys had missed it, the WWE SmackDown review is up on the channel. Of course, I talk about that amazing Tribal Core of Roman Reigns segment, and of course, the Tribal Core of Roman Reigns ended with Jey Uso challenging Roman Reigns to a one-on-one match for the undisputed Universal Championship, most likely at SummerSlam. I talk about all this and much more on the SmackDown review. If you guys haven't checked out the SmackDown review, the link will be in the description below. As well as AEW Dynamite. Of course, I talk about the amazing chemistry between Adam Cole and MJF. Of course, they are part of the Blind Eliminator tournament, and there was a lot of things that went down regarding both Adam Cole and MJF. Very entertaining things that went down between Adam Cole and MJF. I give my thoughts on that and much more on the Dynamite review. So if you guys haven't checked out the AEW Dynamite review, the link as well will be in the description below. All right, let's get on to AEW Collision. The show kicks off with none other than CM Punk. Of course, CM Punk is going to be wrestling in the main event against Samoa Joe in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. CM Punk comes to the ring and he has a microphone. He asks the crowd in Regina, is it great to be alive in Regina on a Saturday night or what? Of course, he has a big match with Samoa Joe tonight, and there's some history that needs to be detailed. It's about everybody here in Regina and everybody here in Canada and everybody here in Hart Stampede country. He recognizes the gravity of the moment, talks about how it's the biggest match of his career, and if Joe kills him in a dream, he feels like it's the end of the tournament. But it's not the end of the tournament. If he did think this was the end of the tournament, he'd look past against Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. But tonight, history will be made. 18 years since he's been in the ring with Samoa Joe, and he has missing teeth because of this man. CM Punk then proceeds to call himself pretty and talks about how Samoa Joe is bigger than him. And, of course, tonight, instead of chanting CM Punk or Samoa Joe, we should all chant Owen Hart. And we get a bunch of Owen Hart chants by the crowd. And if it wasn't for Owen, lots of the locker room would be empty. You can champion CM Punk, you can put Joe on a pedestal, but at the end of the day, none of us would be here if it wasn't for Owen Hart. And ladies and gentlemen, he is a hockey guy, and he knows Regina is a hockey town, and he will walk under these ladders, break a mirror, and touch the trophy, not because he deserves it, but because he will earn it. He cannot promise a victory because he has never beaten Samoa Joe, but he believes, and one can think, and one, of course, he can promise, in this ring, win, lose, or draw, he will pour his heart out and leave everything in the ring, and he will leave everything in the ring for not only everyone, but for Owen. Mic drop. That was the first promo by CM Punk on AEW Collision ahead of his match against Samoa Joe later on in the night. Overall thoughts on this little promo segment by CM Punk, I thought it was great. It really sold us on how important the Owen Hart Cup tournament is, but not only that, it sold us on CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. And AEW went full-fledged with this, man. They even, after the Punk promo, aired a video package of the history between CM Punk and Samoa Joe. So very well informed, man. You know for a fact, if AEW is putting out a video package of this magnitude about CM Punk and Samoa Joe, you know ahead of time this match is going to be fucking crazy. And at the end of the day, this match was fucking crazy. After that, we got our first semifinal match of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. We got Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Ricky Starks. Of course, last week, Ricky Starks beat Juice Robinson to advance to the semifinals, as well as Powerhouse Hobbs last week on Collision beat the natural Dustin Rhodes to advance to the semifinals, and now they are running it back. Of course, they had a rivalry last year because, of course, they were together as part of Team Taz, and AEW even showcased, they showed footage of when, Ricky Starks won the FTW title from Brian Cage a couple of years ago, which was still one of my favorite Dynamite moments ever, in my opinion, man. That spear in the end by Ricky Starks on Brian Cage was smooth as fuck. But they showed history of that and where it led to, of course, the feud between Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. So their story behind this match going on for the Owen Hart Cup tournament. But overall, this was a great, great, great match. Was it a long match? No, it wasn't a long match, but it definitely got the job done. Also, the right man won in Ricky Starks. So we're going to be going through the match. We get a couple of right hands in the corner by Starks. Hobbs goes for a series of body shots. Starks then gets taken to the apron, and then he clotheslines Hobbs onto the outside. Hobbs gets back into the ring. We get a clothesline by Hobbs on Starks. At this point, Hobbs is in control. QT Marshall, yes, QT Marshall, the guy that nobody likes. QT gets involved. We get a couple of right hands by Hobbs in the corner. Starks proceeds to fight back, but instead he runs into a back elbow by Powerhouse Hobbs. Hobbs instead picks up Starks with a delayed vertical suplex. After that, he hammer throws Starks into the corner. Once we're back from break, Hobbs gets hit with a series of elbows by Starks. Stark proceeds to fight back, and then he goes for a series of body shots. We get a kick by Starks. Later on, Hobbs hits a repeated clotheslines in the corner on Starks, and then he takes Starks up. Starks escapes. He powerbombs Hobbs, and then we get a cover and an earfall. After that, we get a springboard missed by Ricky Starks, but then he ends up hitting a kick on Hobbs. He tries to go for the tornado DDT, but then Hobbs blocks it, but not all the way. Starks then runs the ropes, and of course, QT, being the douchebag he is on the outside and grabs the boot of Ricky Starks. After that, Hobbs goes for the spinebuster. QT, at this point, distracts the referee. And what's crazy is that after Hobbs hit the spinebuster, he was going to go for the pin, and he did go for the pin, but the referee was distracted by QT Marshall, and this is where all the tension came in regarding all the folks at QTV. What happened is Hobbs sees what was going on with QT Marshall and the referee, and Hobbs is pissed. At this point, when Hobbs turns around, Ricky Starks takes the advantage and hits the spear, and we get a cover, and Ricky Starks wins and advances in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament next week on Dynamite. On Collision, I should say. Not on Dynamite, but on Collision. Overall thoughts on this match. Again, a relatively short match, but definitely got the job done. But we are not done. After the match, QT Marshall is in the ring, and of course he's trying to explain his case as to why things happened the way that they happened. After that, Hobbs pushes QT Marshall. Aaron Solo comes in, and when Aaron Solo comes in, Hobbs gets pissed, and he ends up hitting a spinebuster on Aaron Solo. And then he threatens QT Marshall, but Holly comes in and protects QT Marshall, and then Hobbs leaves. overall thoughts on this match or this moment that happened after. From what it looks like, Hobbs is on his way out of QTV. And honestly, if that is the case, hallelujah. Because, look, when they first aired those QTV segments, they were pretty entertaining, but they started to get old. And if you really think about it, QT Marshall, really, of all people that you paired Powerhouse Hobbs with, you paired this fucking guy, this poor guy, with QT Marshall of all people. Of all people, you paired him up with QT Marshall. The way he won the TNT title against Wardlow on the Dynamite after Revolution was fucking ridiculous. It was just so dumb. One of the worst booking decisions AEW has done this year, in my opinion. They butchered not only Wardlow's reign, but they also butchered Powerhouse Hobbs' TNT title reign. What do you remember? I'm asking you, the viewer, everybody watching this review right now, what do you remember from Powerhouse Hobbs' TNT title reign? Chances are, the most likely answers that you're going to get are none. Like, you don't remember anything from Powerhouse Hobbs' TNT title reign because nothing really special really happened in that reign. He paired himself with QT Marshall, and literally, QT Marshall is literally viewed as a jobber heel. I'm sorry, I hate to be the guy that says this, but it's fucking true. It really is fucking true. No disrespect personally to QT Marshall, but let's be honest, nobody likes QT Marshall. So the fact that you had Hobbs have him paired with QT Marshall was ridiculous. I think Hobbs leaving the QTV and really going out on his own and branching out on his own makes total sense creatively for Powerhouse Hobbs in the future. After that, Miro. We get a backstage, not a backstage, but we get a video package of Miro. He cuts a promo, and he says, many men have lost themselves after a deal with the devil. But of course, one man found himself after a showdown with his own God. He is ready to fight anyone and hurt them in ways that they cannot hurt him. Because no one can hurt the man that has nobody left to love and nobody left to convey. And he cannot be tempted by his path, not by a shiny belt, not by a false god, and not by a double-jointed wife. Yes, he said double-jointed wife. He must be what his god was not, because he is Miro. He senses a big battle is coming, and of course, it's one we've all been waiting for. Setting the stages for those plans for Miro. I love it, because I was starting to get a little bit concerned with what they were doing with Miro by just putting him in fucking jobber squashing matches. Now it looks like after this video package that aired on Collision, it looks like we're going to get Miro's first major feud back in AEW, which is great to see at the end of the day. So definitely give something Miro to do. Don't just have him squash people left and right every week, because if you just have Miro squash people left and right every week, the mystique of Miro will just be gone. So you really need to have a program for Miro set in stone so you can really establish Miro as, this unstoppable force, like this new and improved Miro. Of course, the guy that left his own god and, really went his own path. So hopefully AEW does something well, and this big battle that Miro is talking about, hopefully it's legitimately one that we've been all waiting for. Willow Nightingale is backstage. Of course, originally that was supposed to be on the card. We were supposed to be getting Willow Nightingale and Athena in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, but Willow Nightingale was not medically cleared to compete. She talks about that in this backstage interview. She talks about how she didn't want to return to Collision this way. And then the current Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena comes in. She talks about how she ruined her Collision debut, but she can't help to think if this is legit. We all know she delayed the match because she did not want to take another L from yours truly. But Willow proceeds to put her smile back on, and she challenges her to a match on Rampage this Friday in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. So yeah, Willow Nightingale and Athena, it sucks that we didn't get this match. I was more excited about CM Punk and Samoa Joe, but I did watch Willow Nightingale and Athena wrestle at one of the earlier Honor Club shows for Ring of Honor, and they fucking killed it. Absolutely fucking killed it. This match would have been an absolute banger. And, I know that term gets thrown around everywhere. Sheamus now says it. Everybody on social media says it. But, bro, if you guys haven't watched Willow Nightingale versus Athena, really give it a watch. They tore the house down a couple of months ago on the Ring of Honor taping. But we're going to be getting that match on Rampage. We get a video package of Blood and Guts. So, of course, Blood and Guts is going to be taking place in 2 weeks, July 19th at the TD Garden in Boston. And it's going to be the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite. We do not know who the mystery partner for the Blackpool Combat Club is going to be, nor do we know who the partner is for the Elite as well. Most likely it's going to be Kota Ibushi. It's obvious that it's going to be Kota Ibushi, but really the question is who's going to be the partner for the Blackpool Combat Club. After that, we got Julia Hart of the House of Black in action. Of course, it was a relatively short match, nothing really special. The only thing that I enjoyed a lot by Julia Hart was her entrance. Julia Hart's entrance is absolutely fucking breathtaking. I love her entrance because clearly it shows, like, you know, her development in her character ever since AEW paired her with the House of Black. You know, Julia Hart has been going on the upward instead of the downward, and that is great to see. Her entrance alone sold me on Julia Hart, the character. But both lock up. Julia goes for a series of kicks to the knee on her opponent. We get a shoulder tackle, back elbow, and then a chop block. She applies the Heartless Lock, and Julia Hart wins the match. After that, we get Malachi Black in a video package with his mask off and showcases the paint on his face. Talks about why is the guy that wears masks tell him he cannot wear masks. Maybe after this, he not only answers that question, but actually understands why he took off his mask. You see, the fundamental difference between him and Andrade is that Andrade did not become who he is until he took off his mask. As for he himself, that being, of course, Malachi Black, he has to hide in plain sight, while his mask is truly who he is. Who he is. I said who he is. It's who he is. He's been led to believe that for years, his mask is somehow the reason for his success. But he does not realize that when he took it off and gave it more strength than ever when he was wearing it. He did like, you know, he's like some child that can't let go of his teddy bear. He can't seem to let go of his mask, and he can't seem to grasp how great he can be until he teaches him. Together, him and Andrade will cut the last vein that is the pump of lies that he has created for himself. And together, they will make sure that the whole world will see how truly great he is. After that, Andrade is in a backstage interview, and he's asked, what does his mask mean to him? And he points to the camera and he says, Malachi, look at me. I'm a businessman. Do you think I hide my mask? You know, I hide behind my mask? He isn't a coward like him. His mask is everything to him. It's about his family, his country, all Latin people. So when he has his mask on, he puts business aside, and when he takes his mask on, or off, I should say, it's time to fight. And he remembers. He fights to the death, and he knows. Yo peleo hasta la muerte. That's exactly what Andrade stated. He will fight to the death, and that's that. So it looks like we're going to be getting a one-on-one match in the next couple of weeks between Malachi Black and Andrade. Sign me the fuck up. Those guys will literally pull out one of probably the best in-ring matches you will ever fucking see. I'm absolutely excited. I love the fact that Andrade is in a program with Malachi Black. I think it would make so much sense, and it just fits. It fits so well. Not only that, both men know each other so well from the days in NXT. So really, if you think about it, they're really trying to take what they kind of did in NXT and then really trying to, I don't want to say spin it, but like put it in a storyline aspect where it's just all about a mask. But at the same time, the mask means something in wrestling. And of course, both of their masks, even though they're polar opposites, both of each other's masks, you know, mean something in particular to them. And that's the story that they're telling. And I think it's very interesting. You know, I'm definitely excited to see where they're going with Malachi Black and Andrade. And it looks like we're going to be getting a one-on-one match in the future. When could that happen? I have absolutely no idea. My best bet, we're probably going to be seeing it in the next couple of weeks on Collision. But we're going to have to wait and see. Then we got one of the best matches of the night. We have FTR and Jay White taking on, FTR taking on Jay White and Juice Robinson of Bullet Club Gold. I botched that real bad. But, of course, we got FTR versus Bullet Club Gold in an AEW World Tag Team Championship title eliminator match. Right off the bat, I hated the fact that this match was an eliminator match. I thought it was very fucking stupid because of the fact that, again, you know, we've been seeing these 8-man tag team matches, trios matches involving CM Punk, FTR, and Bullet Club Gold, that if you really think about it, Jay White and Juice Robinson immediately should just get the title shot. They should just get the title shot. They don't have to go through them again. And when they do beat them, they have to go through FTR once again to win the tag team titles. The idea of the world title eliminator match is so fucking stupid. You know, you beat the champions in order to get a title shot from the same champions. That's kind of fucking stupid in my opinion. But nonetheless, this match was fucking awesome. I loved this match. These guys tore the fucking house down. You know, some of the spots were brutal. Dax was phenomenal. Jay White was amazing. Juice Robinson, bro. Juice Robinson, say what you want about, you know, I don't want to say his character, but say what you want about Juice Robinson. Juice Robinson is fucking fire. He is absolutely fucking fire. But we're going to go through the match. Jay and Dax start, both lock up once again. We get an arm drag by Dax, and then we get a side headlock takeover by Dax. After that, we then get a shoulder tackle by Dax, and then we get a hip toss by Dax. After that, we get the side headlock takeover once again by Dax. Later on, Cash goes for the Fireman's Carry takeover. After that, we get a shoulder tackle by Juice Robinson, so Cash and Juice are the legal man. After that, we get a leapfrog by Cash. After that, he sends Juice up over with a monkey flip. After that, Juice goes to the outside. Jay tags in. Cash and Jay White lock up. Jay White is in control. At this point, all 4 men in the ring, and a brawl breaks loose. We get a series of reversals by both FTR and Bullet Club Gold that lead into a double German suplex by both members of FTR, which looked amazing. At this point, FTR is in control of the match. Once we're back from break, Jay tags in Juice. At this point, Dax is the legal man. Juice goes for repeated rights on Dax Harwood, and then he sends Dax into the corner, and then Dax lands on his chest. After that, we get a suplex by Juice Robinson. We get a cover into near fall. We get a chop by Dax. Both exchange chops. We then get a back elbow. Cash makes the tag. After that, he drops Cash on top of Juice. And then we get a cover into near fall. We get a drop kick by Cash. Then we get a near fall. Chop again by Cash. And then by Juice. Juice then proceeds to bite the face of Cash Wheeler in the corner. After that, we get repeated rights by Juice. And then Cash regains control. Cash goes for repeated right hands, but then Juice face drops Cash onto the ropes. At this point, Jay White is on the outside, and what happens is he picks up Cash, and then he drops him on the apron. Juice then shoves Cash into the corner repeatedly. After that, Jay White tags in. He continues to drive through the midsection of Cash Wheeler. After that, we get a chop by Jay White. Juice tags in. We get a backbreaker. After that, we get a headbutt by Juice. Jay makes the tag once again. He goes for the waistlock and then goes for the takedown. Cash goes for a series of stomps, and then he spits in the face of Dax Harwood, and he applies the Moodalock. After that, Dax takes out Jay White without the referee looking, and then Jay White sends Dax to the barricade. After that, back in the ring, Cash fights back on Bullet Club Gold. We get an inside cradle by Cash, but then Juice distracts the referee. We get a near fall. We get a kick by Jay White. We then get a running uppercut. And then he ends up hitting a suplex on Cash into the corner. After that, Jay White, we get a cover by Jay White and a near fall. After that, we get a snap suplex by Juice Robinson. After that, later on, Cash drops Jay White. Jay White later on takes out Dax. He clotheslines Juice onto the outside. Cash later on gets thrown to the outside. Once we're back from commercial break once again, Jay White tags in. He runs into the corner. After that, he clotheslines Juice onto the outside. We get an inside cradle by Dax, and then we get a near fall. After that, he sends Jay into the corner. We get a clothesline on by Dax, a German by Dax on Jay, and then another clothesline. We get a series of waistlock exchanges by both. Dax goes for the brain buster, and then we get a cover and a near fall. He then takes Jay to the top rope. We get a chop by Dax, and then Dax is up on the second rope. Juice comes in, and then he proceeds to take him down. Then Cash Wheeler also comes in. We get a chops. He chops on Cash Wheeler, and then he hits a left hand, but then Cash side slams him on the apron. At this point, Jay White is still on the top, but then Dax comes back with the right hand. Dax goes all the way to the top, and FTR go for the Powerplex. We get a cover by Dax and a near fall. Cash goes to the top, but then Jay White sends Dax onto the outside. Cash then gets caught with a left hand, and then we get a suplex by Jay. Blade Runner. But, of course, Dax comes in for the save. After that, FTR tries to go for the big rig, but what happens? It gets blocked. Jay White escapes. We got a roll-up by Jay White and a near fall. We get a chop by Cash. Dax goes for the blind tag. He ends up going for the pile driver. We get a cover and a near fall when Juice makes the save. Cash gets sent to the post. Juice tags in. Jay White goes for the blind tag. After that, Juice then plants Dax down. Jay White then goes for the Regalplex on Dom. I said Dom. I said Dom. Not Dax, not Dom. Jesus Christ. Then he goes for a double suplex attempt by Bullet Club Gold. Cash goes for the save, and then he sends Bullet Club Gold into one another. Jay White goes for the Uranagi, then on Dax. Dax escapes. He picks up Jay. We get the Slingshot Liger Bomb by Dax Harwood. We get a cover and a near fall. Dax goes for the running lariat. We get a cover and another near fall. Juice then goes for a leg lariat. Cash comes in. Juice then gets dropped down by Cash. Blade Runner on Cash, and then Dax and Jay exchange shots. We then get a dropkick onto the knee of Dax, and then we get repeated chops by Jay White. Dax picks up White, but then Juice tags in. Dax fights off both. Dax goes for the roll-up, but at this point, Jay White isn't illegal. Juice takes out Dax. We get a cover by Cash. Or we get a cover, and Cash tries to make the save. But what happens is Jay White ends up blocking Cash Wheeler, and Bullet Club Gold win the AEW Tag Team Title Eliminator match, and they will get a title shot against FTR next week on Collision. Overall thoughts on this match, this was phenomenal. This was a lot of people have been saying this on social media, but it's true. This was tag team wrestling at its finest. Absolutely. It started off a little slow, but then it really started to pick up the pace. Jay White is fucking phenomenal, man. I don't know how many times I have to put this man over, but I just do it because he's that damn good. Jay White is a future main eventer. Period. There was just one tweet that I saw on the internet saying, Jay White went from being just another guy on the roster to when Collision started, and this guy's now a main eventer. Clearly, Jay White is now in a better position than he was when he first entered AEW. And a lot of that has to do with Collision just flat out existing. Without Collision, we do not know where Jay White or Bullet Club Gold would be. But with Jay White and Bullet Club Gold really now being the top thing on AEW Collision, honestly, I'm not that upset at all. I'm not even upset at all. I'm just this is just so damn good. It's so damn good. The match was phenomenal. It was great. It sucks that FTR lost, and it sucks the fact that this match was an eliminator match, but whatever. It is what it is. And next week's going to be very interesting. We got a video package of Luchasaurus and, of course, Shawn Spears. And next week, it's going to be Luchasaurus versus Shawn Spears at Battle of the Belts. Battle of the Belts, of course, will be taking place next Saturday, and it's going to be basically a special 3-hour broadcast. Of course, we got 2 hours of Collision and 1 hour of Battle of the Belts, and most likely nobody's going to watch Battle of the Belts because Battle of the Belts is absolutely fucking irrelevant. After that, Tony Schiavone tries to get a word with FTR, and Cash talks about how it sucks, and of course, Bullet Club are the winners of this match. Jay says that they have the right to call themselves the best tag team in the world, because they beat Fuzzy Fuzzy Bear and Silly Willy Worm. And, of course, they beat him twice. And they challenged them in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Yeah, 2 out of 3 falls. Fucking, bro, that's going to be fucking awesome next Saturday on Collision. 2 out of 3 falls. I'm excited. After that, we got Scorpio Sky taking on Action and Andretti. This, of course, was Scorpio Sky's in-ring return after a long hiatus away from AEW. Unfortunately, this match wasn't really it was great. It was great in-ring, but if you really think about it, after that banger of a match that we had between Bullet Club Gold and FTR, how can you follow that? If you really think about it, how can you follow that? I'm not going to go through everything. Both lock up. We got a side headlock by Sky. Later on, Andretti takes him down. We got a cutter. We got a cartwheel back elbow by Action. Action goes for the tope. Action misses the springboard 450, but then we get a cover into near fall. We get a shot to the back of Scorpio Sky, and then we get a knee by Sky followed by a pump kick. And then Andretti goes for the split-legged moonsault, but he misses when Sky gets the knees up. After that, we get a roll-up by Andrade. Andretti. We get a near fall. And then after that, Scorpio Sky picks him up. He drops him down. We get a cover, and Sky wins the match. After that, he picks up Action Andretti, and he offers him respect. So, yeah, honestly, nothing really special. This was Scorpio Sky's first match back in AEW. But was it really that special? No, not really. Of course, Scorpio Sky is now a babyface. He's no longer a heel. So we're going to have to wait and see what he does in the future, but I'm not really that too interested in a guy like Scorpio Sky. After that, we got our main event. Yes, we got the main event. CM Punk taking on Samoa Joe in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. This match was fucking fire. Absolutely fucking fire. For the guys that they're in their particular age, they did pretty well. CM Punk, I've always said it. Ever since CM Punk came back, he's really getting more comfortable being, from all that time away in the wrestling ring. CM Punk is literally, giving us really good matches, and this match was no different. Joe ends up missing a spinning kick. Both lock up. Joe misses a chop. Punk ends up hitting a chop, and then we get another chop by Punk. Joe goes for the knuckle lock. We then get a chop by Punk, and then we get a side headlock by Punk. Then we get another chop, and then the side headlock once again. Joe misses a chop, and then we get a series of rights and lefts by Punk. After that, we get a chop by Punk, and then Joe gets hit with a boot. Punk then misses the crossbody, and this was probably my favorite spot of the entire night, and not only that, the entire match. Punk goes to the top, and he tries to go for the crossbody on Joe. And what happens is Joe does, as Michael Cole would say, vintage Samoa Joe, walks off casually and let fucking CM Punk just fall on his ass. Funniest shit ever, bro. Absolutely freaking hella hilarious in my opinion. After that, Joe walks off, Joe goes for a chop to the back of Punk. Then he goes for a chop on the chest of Punk. And then he goes for another chop. We get a kick by Joe on the chest. Then after that, Punk goes for repeated rights. Punk proceeds to fight back, but instead he runs into an elbow by Samoa Joe. Joe drives his boot onto the face of Punk. He runs into an elbow. After that, Punk goes to the top, but then Joe chops Punk, taking him to the outside. Once we're back from commercial break, both men are in the ring. After that, at this point, Joe is in control. Joe misses the knee drop, and then we get a right hand by Punk. Then we get a chop by Punk, and then Joe, his knee ends up giving out. And what happens is Joe is selling his knee. Punk ends up hitting the leg lariat. We get a cover. We get a running knee by Punk into the corner. And then what happens is Punk gets caught in the choke. He gets caught in the choke, but then Punk manages to pick up Samoa Joe and drops him down. Punk and Joe go for a series of exchanges. Punk misses a kick. We get repeated rights by Joe, a boot by Punk, running knee by Punk, and then a second running knee by Punk, third running knee, and of course he ends up hitting a lariat. After the lariat, Punk goes to the top. He ends up hitting the elbow drop, and we got a cover and a near fall, and it looks like he's going to be setting up the GTS, the Gold to Sleep. But he proceeds to pick up Joe. Then what happens is Joe tries to apply the crossface, but then Punk thankfully dragged his foot onto the bottom rope. We get a series of kicks by Joe. He picks up Punk. Punk escapes. We get an elbow. Then he tries to pick up Joe, but then Joe escapes. He ends up hitting the power slam. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a bunch of Owen Hart chants by the crowd. Then we get a high kick by Punk. We get a cover and another near fall. Punk goes to the top, but then Joe comes back. He takes Punk for the muscle buster, but then Punk tries to fight back once again. We get a tornado DDT blocked by Joe, followed by a series of twisting neck breakers by Punk. Then after that, he picks up Joe. He applies the choke, and we get a roll-up by Punk. And yes, Punk goes for the roll-up. And Punk, shockingly, gets the win over Samoa Joe. After the match, Joe looks at Punk, and he offers a handshake. And Punk is thinking about it, but at the end of the day, he wants to show sportsmanship, so what the hell? And this is the shot right here. This was the part where they were shaking their hands. But what happens after that is Joe looks at Punk, And what happens is Punk gives him the handshake, and immediately Samoa Joe ends up hitting the choke. He applies the choke on Punk. He tries to make Punk go to sleep. Joe, after that, grabs the chair. FTR then come to the aid of CM Punk. Joe leaves. Then Ricky Starks comes out in the end, and he looks at his opponent for next week with CM Punk being in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Same thing as Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks has this look on his face, and he turns away because he knows next week is going to be a very important night for not only him, but also CM Punk. This match was fucking awesome. My biggest takeaway from this is I love the fact that AEW is going to go forward with the CM Punk versus Samoa Joe program. I say that because I remember last year, and I think I said this before, but ever since CM Punk won the AEW World title, his first reign that lasted only a couple of days because he broke his foot, one of the feuds that I wanted to see for the AEW World Championship was Samoa Joe versus CM Punk. And we got that on Collision, and it was fucking fire. Absolutely. We got it on Collision, and honestly, bro, like, Samoa Joe and CM Punk, man, these two guys are, you know, the epitome of, like, independent wrestling history, because their trilogy in Ring of Honor, I believe they had more one-on-one matches as well. They had more one-on-one matches outside of Ring of Honor, I believe. But man, seeing Samoa Joe and CM Punk, bro, fucking phenomenal, man. This match was awesome. It was everything that it needed to be. The pacing of the match was right. The story of the match was right. The fact that Punk had the side headlock, you know, the side headlock played a major role in the original matches, trying to really wear Joe off. And my biggest takeaway from this is I love the fact that AEW is going to go forward with a CM Punk versus Samoa Joe feud. They're going to go forward with that feud after what Samoa Joe did at the end of this show. And we could possibly be looking at CM Punk losing next week on Collision because of Samoa Joe. Now, where is the rematch going to take place? I see a lot of people, and I even stated it myself, that it could take place at Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view, because that's only in 2 weeks. It makes sense from a nostalgic and historic perspective to have that match at Death Before Dishonor. But if you think about it, you're leaving a lot of money out of the table. You're really going to put Punk versus Samoa Joe, the rematch, in a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, which does significantly less buys than AEW pay-per-views. What if they build this towards all the way to All Out? What if they build it all the way to All Out? Would that be better? We're going to have to wait and see. But from that ending that happened on Collision, it clearly looks like Joe and Punk is going to be a program, and Ricky Starks is going to be winning the Owen Hart Cup tournament. But yeah, that was my AEW Collision review from July 8th, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later.